Australia has been told to keep going on social media bans, which appears to be leading America when it comes to social media crackdowns. This is all ahead of a world-leading summit today, attended by both the Premiers of New South Wales and South Australia, Chris Minns and Peter Malinauskas, who both join me now. This is certainly a first to have two Premiers on at the same time. Good morning to you both. Peter, I'll start with you. You've really led the way on this in the country. Do you feel like you're making progress?
Well, we're pretty enthusiastic about the degree of momentum we're seeing around the nation for law reform that limits kids' access to social media. I'm really grateful that Chris has put together this summit, which is happening across 2 days, which only generates more momentum. We've now, of course, got the Prime Minister committing to introducing legislation in the federal parliament, which has ostensibly got bipartisan support. So we think we're close. We just want to make sure we seal the deal and actually make a meaningful change for the way that children interact with one another. This is about making sure that kids are being protected from a service that we know is doing them harm. No different to regulating the supply of booze or cigarettes. We can make a difference here in terms of law reform, and that's what Chris and I are so committed towards achieving.
So, Chris, what have you learned from Peter's push, and how do you want to change things in New South Wales?
Yeah, well, look, we've nicked a lot of ideas from South Australia. Pete's really put this on the national agenda. As he said, federal government stepped in to introduce a national ban or an age restriction. That's exactly what we need. So before the summit's even begun, there's been momentum for law change. You know, at the very worst here, Pete, we'll be able to get information in the hands of parents about the best ways of dealing with children and the ubiquitous use of social media. And at best, we can actually get some momentum behind law changes to protect children. If you look at the statistics, the incidence of self-harm, anxiety, mental health and even suicide have risen almost exactly correlated with the rise of social media, particularly Facebook from 2010 onwards. So we need change here, and I think this summit can get the issues on the table.
So you just saw these recent changes by Instagram, Peter. Do you think your push has led to that?
Well, we think there's a degree of not just support domestically within Australia, but globally. Parents are calling out for change, and I think what you're starting to see now is Meta respond to that call from parents, and they're seeking to get ahead of the curve because they know that legislators are coming. Legislators want to make sure we're protecting our children, and we're going to do something about it. There's not just a desire here, there's a determination. So those changes from Meta and Instagram are welcomed. I don't think they can do any harm, but I don't think that mitigates the need for governments to respond and act. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this regard.
So you'll forgive me for being sceptical here, because kids will always find a way to get online. So, Peter, how watertight can you make it? And then we'll get Chris's response to that as well.
Yeah, OK. Well, first and foremost, let's just think about this in another context. We legislate around the country to say that kids underage can't drink, under 18. But do kids have a few sneaky beers when they're 16 years old? Of course they do. Similarly with cigarettes. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't have a law that sets a standard that we can all seek to apply. Whether it be parents, whether it be regulators, governments, we have rules which we know doesn't eliminate underage drinking, but we know it reduces it. And we can think social media can be the same. But the second thing is the way we put the obligation on social media companies themselves. See, what we say to pubs is you can't serve to kids under the age of 18. The duty is on them. Well, we should do the same to social media services, saying that we can't allow kids to have accounts if they're under 16 or 14 or whatever age we choose. So we believe that can be achieved. We've got a Chief Justice of the High Court giving us a model about how we can legislate to achieve that, and we think that's worthy of pursuit.
Yeah, and so how do you make it on that, Chris? You know, you're a dad, you're going to be dealing with this.
Yeah, look, we do deal with it. Right? We deal with it all the time, and this isn't about being a perfect parent. I mean, if you look at the statistics, 70% of kids between the ages of 10 and 12 have access to social media, which is well below the ages that the social media companies themselves say is their restriction. So if these companies can tell what your favourite pop song is and what your favourite movie is and who you're likely to go for in a sport before you even enter it into your social media platform, they can easily tell whether someone's of age or not. And as Peter said, we don't allow 13 and 14-year-olds to get a sports bet account If those companies can put age restrictions in place and stop the widespread use on gambling apps, then certainly social media companies can as well. I mean, these are the richest companies in the world. They have the resources to make a difference. The fact that they refuse to do it is not a good enough reason.
I'll tell you what, seeing you both together, Peter's got some height on you, Chris.
I've got my heels on, Pete.
I'm trying to get them to put a box underneath here so I can stand on it. But
That is Peter Malinauskas.
this is the last of these interviews.